Well, I'll do the countdown like I normally do. Press the start button, and then it's over to you.
Lovely.
Okie dokie. 3, 2, 1.
Hello, peoples. Before I begin, I've got to say today has been. There's definitely something going on energetically today. That's what I would say. And it's funny because when I got my internet back this morning, I dropped in on Litmus's show this morning, and he was talking about. Now the dog started. Stop it! Go away. He was talking about like the I don't know the technical terms, the stuff on your astrological chart, yeah, and what the different lines all mean. And one of the things he said, it kind of brought this topic to the top of the triangle. Okay, triangle to the top of the triangle again. So yeah, why are we here? Why are we here? I don't mean here listening to me waffle on. I mean, why are we on this planet at this time having the experiences we're having, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent? What's it all about, Alfie? That's what I want to know. So I know people ask this question all the time when you start on a spiritual journey. That's kind of the first question that comes up. Why am I here? What am I doing here? Yeah, because to be quite frank, as I'm gonna paraphrase Ian here, because back in 2020 he was telling people this thing. When you wake up, you don't wake up in Shangri-La. You wake up and you see the shit show. Yeah, you see it all for what it is. So, what is the point of that? So I suppose when you start on this kind of spiritual journey, that's the big question. So I suppose where I stand to begin with, because this is multiple layers of ideas, concepts, theories, whatever you want to call it, as to why we are here. So from a perspective of soul realignment, which is something that it's what is it? It's like a healing modality, essentially, working with the Akashic records. So from a soul realignment perspective, the only reason we are here is to have experiences as this divine being, this divine creator being. So we come here to collect experiences, like people collect crystals, like me. And you could argue that is then fed back to the part of you that's bigger and sees everything, and then the bigger part that is bigger and bigger and bigger. It's kind of fractal in nature, I would argue. So us little humans on this planet having all these experiences is basically feeding through to a being that can't have, or has chosen not to have, these very three-dimensional, physical, dense, sometimes very annoying experiences. Do we know why? Do we know why it gathers experiences? I don't know if I've ever heard anyone actually talk about that. Not that I've heard everyone talk about everything. That's not, excuse me. I guess that's not a question I've ever asked myself. So maybe that's a question I need to ask when I do my next lot of card pulling. So essentially, if you take that as a layer, that we're here to have experiences. Yeah. So, as a divine creator being, so you could call that whatever you want to call it. Personally, I reckon we are like neutrinos. So we are, what are neutrinos? Neutrinos are what I call a 5D particle. They are actually acknowledged by science, believe it or not, but they can basically, they don't conform to any laws of physics. When I say laws of physics, that's in inverted commas, obviously. Um, so they're very, you could say they're an ascended particle. Oh, I want to be an ascended particle. um, so if we are these little light, like little fairy lights blinking on and off, yeah, but we can form, we can take a what looks like a solid form, and we can decide to not take a solid form, yeah. But we've kind of forgotten that. There's a forgetting that we are that, because we spent so long doing this crazy dense um, experience that we've forgotten. And I don't think that's necessarily amnesia. So I haven't had arguments with people about this, but I don't believe it's amnesia, as in we don't have a choice. We do have a choice, because if you're coming here to have an experience, yeah, and before your soul incarnates, it can see all the possibilities depending on what wonky karmic goggles it's looking through. So if they're a bit misted up, you're not going to see as many options. You're not going to see necessarily the very best option. You'll just see the best options through those wonky goggles, if that makes sense. Um, so your soul knows what it's going to be doing. It knows those pivotal points, if you like. The stuff in between, we can make that up as we go along. But the pivotal points, it will know those. Yeah. A bit like when you climb a mountain, you can see mountain or a hill, whatever. You can see where you've come from, but you can also see where you're going to be going. Yeah. So it's a bit like that. So it knows, and it knows that in order to take itself from being a vast being, the part of you that's bigger and sees everything, tiny bit of that comes down into and inhabits, if you like, a physical body. Yeah. With me so far. So in order to make itself small like that, there would need to be some kind of compression, I would say. So this is like bit sci-fi maybe. Um, so anything that you didn't necessarily need, you would leave behind. Yeah. So would that include remembering who you are? So I wouldn't say it's amnesia. It's more you kind of, yeah, okay, I agree to do that. It's an agreement that you make to do that. And then when you get here, I mean, different times in space would have different experiences, obviously. But this one now, um, I would say, is the best time to be here, maybe. Sometimes it doesn't look like that, I know. But this time now is, from what I can gather anyway, and from the little experiences I've had during meditation, or in when I've been walking around, there's definitely um what's the word I'm looking for? There's definitely changes going on in the human the body suit thing. Yeah, there's definitely something going on with that. I don't know if any of you out there have been experiencing any what people call symptoms. I actually think it's resistance to who you are, because what that does when if you put up resistance to that, and, it can be unconscious, it doesn't matter, but it will create a. So I'm doing a funny shape with my hand, and you can't see it. It creates like a ripple that creates friction, if you like. It's more friction than a ripple, but you know what I mean. Um, which then kind of creates these things. I liken it to a pinball machine. So as light streams through us, if it's hitting those dense pockets of resistance, of holding on, yeah, it's going to work like a pinball machine. So the light bounces off and starts to create resonance or dissonance. That's how I see it anyway. So this idea that we actually say, yep, I agree to do that. I agree to forget who I am so I can come into what people call a physical body, at whatever time in space that you want to. Yeah, but now I would say is definitely on the track of the physical body ascension, if that makes sense. So this isn't a physical death that we're going through. This is a physical ascension. That's what it feels like. Now, I don't know. You might, you're talking a lot of rubbish. Well, we can have a debate about that, but that's certainly what it feels like. So, what is the point of all of that? Is that why we are here right now in this time and space to go through or to witness? You might just be witnessing people's physical ascension. You might not be going through it yourself. You might be holding a space and witnessing. That's good too. And I would say this is quite a unique point in time to be able to either witness or take part in this physical body ascension. I think it's quite amazing actually, although it doesn't always feel like it. Last week I had so much pain in my body, it was like a neuralgia. But the way I see that, so if you are holding the vessel, the physical body, but the metaphysical body as well. If you're holding that vessel open to receive the, people call them light codes, you can call it downloads, whatever you want to call it, solar energy, if you like. So if you're holding your vessel open for that to move through, where was I going with that? Lost my train of thought. Damn it. I actually have a really cool, I came up with this the other day. So if you don't know how to do that, so that, and this has been a process that's been over many years, and I think, and I think a lot of you will agree that this process isn't an overnight thing. It's ramped up recently for sure, but there's a lot of work that's gone before. But one of the things that I've never liked the word surrender. It's always triggered me a bit like the word should. But I finally got to grips with the word surrender. Yeah. So one of the things that I'm doing at the moment, which is really helping me to let go of stuff really quickly, is I have a little kind of mantra, want a better word, intention, I'd probably say actually is a better word. And that intention is along the lines of, and you can use this, change the words, but the intention is to surrender my physical vessel to be a conduit for light and clear the path, basically. So you can use that. Feel free. So this time now, whether you're witnessing this physical body ascension, or whether hi, or whether you are actively taking part in this physical body ascension, I would say that is a very unique time, because normally what people call death of the physical body death would be seen as ascension, because the soul leaves the body and you go to where it was that you came from, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And you come back and you repeat it all over again. Well, if this is different, if we're doing things differently from this point, then I wonder, is there actually going to be a death of the physical body? Because if this is an ascension of the physical body, we don't die, do we? And we know, do we not, that back in, blimey, Sumerian, something like that, there were plenty of beings who lived for thousands of years. So it's not out of the ordinary, but a different energy in the space and time, if you like. So, okay, so I was going to talk about that. The where do we come from? So that's the other part of the question. Why are we here? Where did we come from, and where are we going? So you're always going back to, you call it whatever you like. We call it the void, because that's where the quantum possibilities reside. It is the creative force behind everything, I would suggest, which means it would have to be the energy of love. We know that, don't we? We know that. We're not daft. So for us, we call that love consciousness, because it is a consciousness, as opposed to the other side, which is a matrix, not consciousness. So if you're going back to the void as neutrinos, little sparkly light things, then you've come from love and you go back to love, which is, I don't think there's anything new in there. So if we come from love and we go back to love, why don't we experience that on this planet? In, spades, not just little forkfuls every now and again that we see out there in the weird world that is weird and been even weirder today. Why don't we see that more in the world? And I would argue, and I've been kind of talking with Ian about this for a little while, the idea of over the top of what some people call the 5D Earth, there's like an overlay of the thing that I think I'm calling the fear matrix for the moment. That's the best kind of description I've got, which is which is a different frequency to love consciousness. So love consciousness for us is the frequency 432, until something else, shows itself and goes, actually, it's me. 432 is the nearest frequency that we've got, because it's the frequency of nature. So the fear matrix, there's many different ideas around the frequency that kind of comes from or embodies. You could even argue it's another, it's a like a parallel world frequency, maybe. I don't know. Um, I watch a lot of sci-fi. um, but I know for a fact, and I haven't got my book here to tell you the exact frequency, but I know there's two frequencies that when you put them together, they create this almost like an infrasound, which is it completely disrupts, I suppose, what we would call um, our, what do you call it in soul realignment? The web that kind of surrounds our being, that kind of keeps things like in place, if you like. Golden web, golden web. There we go. Um, and it can do other things. This strange dissonant frequency as well. If I find it in my book, I will post it in the group because it's quite interesting. Um, as a little side note, back in 2021, I think, yeah, it was 2021. There was a lot of stuff going on about the they're always talking about the poles are melting, aren't they? Poles are melting, the ice caps are melting, and all that. And I realised that, or I was given a message that the device that used to be underneath the ice, which is why they don't want it to be melting, has been switched off. So whatever it was that was causing that dissonant frequency is gone, which I found quite interesting because in 2021, it was August 2021, we realized that that background noise that was always there before, like a white noise, had gone. I don't know if any of you have noticed that back in 2021. It was quite interesting. Um, so yeah, so this overlay, as I call it, is a distortion, if you like, of um, it's like it's taken something, it's taken a love consciousness and distorted it, which is what the density does. That density distorts things. Yeah, you only have to put light through a prism to see how light gets distorted by something dense or denser than the light. So I'm putting some mad theories out here today. So if we have this overlay which is denser than love consciousness, it's going to start distorting things. If that doesn't, I hope that makes sense. Which is why I think that we see the, or we experience this quite topsy turvy world, because we come from a place of love. We are beings of love and light. I know that's thrown around a lot, but that's what we are. And we go back to love. So, this experience we have here on this planet is a bit of a mixed bag. But what I would say, it wasn't always that way. There have been times, as we know on this planet, where that's not been the case. And I know people talk about the yogas, and they talk about other things that, you know, cycles of time, that, you know, it's like a waveform. So we go up and we go down, which is actually a spiral. So at the moment, I'd say we're spiraling up. Yeah, we're spiraling up clockwise, I would say, um, as opposed to, you know, the downward spiral that we were in, if you like. So why, if we are spiraling up, yeah, so rhetorical question, if you like, why is it that we're not necessarily seeing that being reflected? We're seeing it in nature, so that's always my go-to. So nature is showing us that. I'm looking at a tree outside my window now, and this tree has grown quite a lot actually. The same with the one that's next to it, which was half dead until 2020 when it came alive again, which is really interesting. Um, so we're seeing nature respond to this energy of love, which is no longer shackled by that weird dissonant frequency. Yeah, you might have noticed it. I've certainly noticed it in our garden. We notice it when we're on our walks. Um, Nature's responding with expansion, yeah, which is the energy of love. So why don't we see it in other things? Yeah. Why don't we see it in government? Yeah, it was a bit tongue in cheek, sorry. Why don't we see it in people? Why don't we see that? I mean, I guess it would depend where you live. I mean, around here, we're seeing lots of resistance, I would say. Lots of resistance and lots of, um, shoving things back down again because I don't wanna feel that. Because that's the thing, yeah? So if the layers of density are peeling off like some old paint, which I think is what in nature, she's expanding and, we're kind of seeing, if you like, um, there's a very strange, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, a strange reaction to that. People cutting down trees all over the place. There's one up the road that has got a notice on it at the moment. I got a bit angry yesterday about that. Um, but it's a big council. They're going to do what they want to do. I don't think there's anything we can do about that. I don't think. I don't know. So we're seeing nature expand and people's strange reactions to nature, which has always baffled me because we are nature. So if you're attacking a tree, you're attacking yourself, basically, which I suppose tells you everything you need to know right there. um, but if these layers of density are, I would say, being alchemized by the energy of love, which doesn't pick up a sword, it just is. And things that come into its vicinity, and I was talking to Ian about this a couple of days ago. It's like, so you're in your living room, your love consciousness in your living room, yeah? The fear matrix is like just staring through the window, pressing its nose up against the window and wants to come in, but it can't because it's not vibrating at the right frequency. Yeah. So it literally works a bit like a shield on the Enterprise. So unless they know the frequency of that shield, their weapons cannot get in. Yeah, that's how I see that. So although they want that, they want the, if you like, they want the experience, sort of, but at the same time they don't. But they can't unless they change their own frequency. They're not going to be able to come in. Yeah, and I also know that that is the case when you have people who live in your street, let's say, that are, how can I put this politely? Shoving all sorts of things down their neck in order to suppress whatever it is that's coming up. I put it very politely. And we see that around here a lot, which is really interesting because it's where we live. It was farmland, but right next to marshland. So marshland, the energy of marshes is very still. It's very almost stagnant, you could say, and very heavy. Really good for alchemizing work, though, and casting spells. I would say that. But it's nothing moves very quickly. in this area. That's been our experience anyway. Um, so it kind of makes sense that, the people that live around here who are, if things are coming up, they're either, well, they're also very explosive around here, I would also say. We're hearing that a lot actually this past week. So I think there's been quite a lot going on energetically. Um, so they're either explosive or they're taking substances to push it all back down again. And I guess you guys know, when you do that, it just comes back even worse. I learnt that the hard way myself. Um, so I would definitely say that this fear matrix that was the overlay on top of the actual reality, yeah, is peeling off. It's peeling off like old paint. But that includes us. We're not exempt. We don't get a pass card here. We don't get a get out of jail free card. We have to go through that process too, because we're on this planet in this frequency. So we no one here gets out alive, as Mr. Morrison said once. So essentially, all these things that we're going through, whether it's stuff with family, whether it's stuff with what stuff happened today? So we had neighbour doing weird things, and the engineer was fixing the internet. We had bank things that we didn't have a choice but to sort out on the spot today. Oh my goodness, family stuff. Bleh. But I'll tell you something. If you can cultivate that idea of surrender, which is very challenging in a world that wants you to fight, yeah, these things pass through quicker. They don't leave an emotional stamp on you, I would say. And although they can rattle you for a short time, my own experience has been the more and more I work on that surrendering my vessel as a conduit of the light, yeah. These things they come in. They might stay for like 3 hours. We were doing this banking thing. It's like, oh my god, is this ever going to end? But then it goes and it's gone. Yeah, it is gone. So I find it quite interesting that the more you surrender to the light, and it's like the ultimate offering. Yeah, I would say. It's a bit like weird example. It's a bit like the breath. So when we were working with Sekhmet back in 2020, one of the offerings that she really likes is a particular breath pattern. So your breath becomes the offering. So you surrendering your vessel to be a conduit for the light is the ultimate offering, I would say. So why are we here? Why are we here right now doing the great work, essentially? Yeah. And I would say, well, self-realization and the realization that everything is magic, but also there is magic at your fingertips. And I had a dream about this. Oh, this was last year sometime. And it was phenomenal. I don't even know how to describe it, but it was like creation at your fingertips. Which is what we are. Yeah. I find that it's like most of the time I'm like, yeah, that's who we are. Sometimes that little comes in and goes, oh, but that's just fiction. That's just you can't be doing that. All that kind of stuff. Well, but what I would say, if you've ever experienced that stillness in meditation, where you can actually feel that it's like you feel the neutrinos as they're moving about. And I tried describing it at the time, and I was just didn't have the words. I said it was like an octopus or jelly or something, but it's not. Now I know what it was. It was what's in the void, which is constantly moving energy, which you could say is neutrinos. So the reason why are we here? I would say at this point in time, is to go through this process of the physical body ascension, and there's no oh, I keep knocking that. Move that out of the way. It's not like it's mandatory to do physical body ascension. You can opt out. It's like a little checkbox when you make a subscription to something. It's no different. So you can choose to come back again if you want to. And I don't know what it would look like if you come back again. I don't know. Hopefully it would look better than it does now. Because it's a bit crazy out there. And what I would say about that is that the more the puppets without strings think they're in control and they try and ramp it up even more, the more they lose control. The tighter you try to hold on to something, the more it slips through your fingers. And that's exactly what is happening right now, without question. Because it's like they're completely unhinged. So, where was I going with that? So, doop doop doo. What was I talking about? Let me get my bearings. So yeah, you don't have to do physical body ascension. You can choose to come back again. Personally, I have no intention of coming back here again and doing all this all over again. That's what I'm aiming for, physical body ascension. That's my aim. If it doesn't work, fine. I'll have to come back again, or I might never come back. I don't know. But that's my aim. I don't know about you guys, but that's certainly how I feel, because I know that there's something else that is the truth, as opposed to the lie that we're told about who we truly are. And there we go. So I am going to shut up now and I'm going to open it up. See if anyone wants to challenge me. I don't mind being challenged, or comment on what I've just been talking about, or share experiences maybe of what I've been talking about.
Well, Angie, what a fascinating subject you've picked for today's show.
Well, you got to look at the big questions, really, haven't you, sometimes?
Why are we here? Yes, of course. I can't imagine that nobody ever has never thought about that at some point during their lifetime.
Absolutely.
Why are we here?
Yeah.
And obviously, I've given it much thought over the years, and conclusions have changed slightly, but the mainstay has been that we are here to experience this reality and to choose.
Yeah, choice is your superpower. Yeah, I didn't even get onto choice, but choose the experiences that uphold, your
you have a choice to decide how you want to engage with this reality. If you choose to do it in a non-positive way, then obviously that's your choice.
Yeah.
And you follow a path down that route, and then you obviously have a choice to not do that.
Yeah.
And follow that path, or meander.
Oh. There it goes. Look, connecting.
As in an invisible man in the sky that creates everything, and we all bow down and worship him.
Yeah.
Because if you accept that, then you've got to also then ask the question, who made God?
Exactly.
And I've used the phrase several times, quite recently over the last couple of months, I've used it, where I've said, just because I can't explain the unexplainable doesn't mean I have to believe in something that is just as unexplainable to explain it.
I like that.
And for me, cool. What you're talking about is what that phrase is all about. Because just because I can't explain why we are here, doesn't mean I must believe then in something that is just as unexplainable, like religion. That says, oh, we are the hobbyists of God. We know what He wants. We're here to do His bidding, and you must follow our path. And if you don't, hell and damnation will beseech you.
And it's so I find it so inflexible and so judgmental. We've had some, well, Ian has, I don't get involved, but Ian's had some very interesting conversations with evangelists, and one of the things he said one day to someone that stopped us in the street of all things, and she was doing her thing, and he said, so you want everyone to believe what you believe? And she said, yes. And he said, well, that's fascism, isn't it? And she shut her mouth. She's got no answer to that.
Well, the thing is that, and another phrase that I've used for a long time now, is that until humanity breaks the shackles that bind it, humanity will not know true freedom.
Absolutely.
So as long as we choose to accept the shackles that bind our emotional, physical and spiritual nature, we will never know true freedom. And it sort of harks back to what you mentioned earlier when you mentioned about government. As an organisation, individual human beings choose to create that government and to uphold it and to champion it, rather than doing the opposite, and that is to destroy it and create solidarity with every human being and not divide them. So anything that separates and divides us is wrong, and that's the choice.
Absolutely.
So we're back to the beginning then of choice.
It is our superpower. It is our superpower, without question.
So that's my little bit. If anybody wants to jump in and discuss that with Angie, please feel free. Oh, are you there, Angie?
I'm here. I think I'm here. Does anyone have any experiences they want to share about their spiritual journey, their path?
No one seems to be coming forward at the moment. But, it's an area or a topic or a discussion that I would imagine has filled up bars and smoking rooms and goodness knows wherever for eons since pubs were invented, where people gather, get drunk and philosophize over the meaning of life, etc.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
Why are we here?
Why are we here? And
there's been trillions and trillions and trillions of human beings that have existed, that have been born and died over the eons, and we're just the latest incarnation of that. And whether I'm choosing to try and simplify it overly, I'm not sure, but I think that it's a case of I'm here now, and I have a choice.
Yeah.
And that choice is to engage with the wrong type of choices, which are the ones that divide humanity from itself and from the earth.
Yeah.
Or not. And I choose not to. I choose to be together, doing it for ourselves, for each other.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier about the tree, and if you damage the tree, well, you're damaging yourself, and in effect, yes, you are.
Absolutely.
Because if you step back from the physical, we're all energy, and that energy comes from the same place.
Absolutely.
And it's just the flow, and we are just the incarnation or a tiny fractal of that energy that is us. And then we die, and then who knows what happens after that? Then that's the next adventure.
Absolutely. I think some people call it Homo luminous, which I quite like. Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Hi guys.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, this is a really massive question to answer, and I don't think I can even begin to do it justice, especially when I'm also cooking a dinner. But in answer to the question of why are we here, I think for me it's quite an interesting one for everyone, right?
Yeah.
I would say it's almost like my life's fallen into two parts, maybe. It's like I was definitely here to bring my children into the world because they're going to continue whatever this thing is, right?
Yeah.
So I've definitely been here for that, and to meet my grandchildren and hopefully point them on the right pathway. But there comes a time when that task is done, and it's not like it finishes on Monday and you start something else on Tuesday, but it's something that I think I morphed into. So I started to get into energy work, and as well as the psychological work that I do, I was very interested in all that as well. And then I had a very quiet message in 2020, which is only really just beginning to kind of make more sense to me. And the message was you're here to hold something. And I think that's what I'm doing. I think I'm holding the light. I think I'm, trying to anchor whatever it is that's coming in for me, but for, I don't know, humanity. I mean, that sounds very grand. I don't mean it to sound grand at all, but for the bigger picture as well as for myself. So I feel like my life, my life was, to start with, was very much about my family, and then it sort of is slowly changed. And then 2020 was a bit of an upturn, a big upturn really. But it's only really this last year or so, especially with, as you say, Angie, the ascension process to me it's warp speed. If you want to carry on with the Star Trek thing, it's really kind of gone into warp speed. And I still don't understand exactly what that thing is that I'm holding or doing or being. But I'm trying to surrender, to use your word again, to the fact that I don't know. It doesn't matter. I just need to do it or be it.
Yeah.
So I hope that in a very small way gives you a snapshot of why I think I'm here.
That's really cool. Thank you, Val, for sharing.
Welcome.
Hi all.
Hi, Jackie.
How are you all doing?
Yeah, good.
Good. Listening in, I came in quite late to the conversation, so I caught the last 30 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And I think my feeling on all of this is that everyone that's here is ascending, and we're all here to, including myself, to clear the way.
Yeah.
And to create a safe space for those who want to follow.
Yeah. I agree. It's like I don't know, I mean, some people would say that's Blu-ray kind of stuff. I don't know really that much about that, but it's like we're at the pointy end of the arrow. That makes sense. People put all kinds of labels on our generation. But essentially, yeah, I agree. Because we're carrying a lot of stuff. I think the generation that are coming up, I don't know really. Maybe the children that are being born now or are like maybe under 10, they won't have that stuff to carry. So they'll be running to catch us up, if you like. They won't need to be running to catch us up. They'll be there. That's my hope anyway. Anyone else have anything?
So I think I jumped in there. Did somebody else want to say something? Okay. Well, just picking up on what Andy said and what you said, and I think we're all of the same mind when it comes to this divide and conquer thing that we are going through ourselves, because we've actually lived it. It's all kind of happened in our lifetimes, in our generation, and I don't think that the following generations are all going to be ready for the new world, if you will. I don't know what else to call it. I don't even know if you want to call it a new world, but say the butterfly coming out of the cocoon, because I feel like we're in a cocoon.
Yes.
And and everything that's happening obviously has happened for a reason, because the universe has its divine plan, if that's what you believe. And I think there is a certain percentage, I'm going to say, of the generations that are following that are already awake. And because we've done the work and we are doing the work, and we can see the obstacles that are in the way, it's going to make their journey easier.
Yeah.
And I think that they will have much more sense of community, in the sense of helping one another, loving one another, not pulling each other down, not having the greed that our generation and previous generations have had. I think that that's what I think that we can, or we are doing for them.
Yeah, that makes sense. We're the Sherpas.
Yeah, that's it. We're carrying the loads and clearing the path.
Oh wow, yeah, we're the Sherpas. That's really mad, because the engineer that came and fixed my internet today was from Nepal, and he looked like a Sherpa.
There you go. See?
Ba-ba-boom.
And thank you, Angie. Lovely show.
Thank you, Jackie. Anyone else want to chip in? It's gone silent. So, Andy, if you want to stop the recording, that might encourage people to.
Yeah, I can do that. If you want to say a few final words, Andy, just to wrap it up, then I can stop it on your inspirational last few words.
Inspirational last words. Okay, so I have an intention that you can set for yourself. Yeah, this is one I say every night before I go to bed, and I team it with the surrendering thing and all the rest of it. So if you set your intention to stay open and receptive to all your gifts, including I've called it the unmasking of your light and aligning with love or love consciousness or whatever you want to call that. And then also on top of that, bridging the gap between your confidence and your magic, because essentially we are magical beings. That's what it would look like to an outsider. Wow, you're doing magic. I'm just being me, but yeah, okay, it's magic. and also celebrate coming home, because that's what it is. You're coming home to yourself. There you go.